All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Noragami, Season 1, Episode 8. All right, so we've got a situation where Kazuma was able to tell Hiyori that...
the situation.
Yeah. Well, Yato will die if the blight is not stopped from spreading its way throughout his body because of the connection that he shares with Yukine.
Right. It's a bit of a problem. Not as extreme as maybe some of the things that we had expected, but the idea of a god dying, that is kind of serious.
Right, and I wonder if this is in some measure something that Yato can't just, solve immediately with something like this, because if it's something where he can't, by his usual methods, cure it or basically remove it, does that mean that Yukine needs to move in the other direction, not just stop what he's doing?
Maybe.
Or is this a time-related thing no matter what at this point?
Right.
We'll just have to wait and see. We have now seen a little bit more of how bad, though, it has gotten with Yukine, to the point where he is actually now just stealing things for almost no reason other than to spite Yato.
Yep.
And that's tough because we're in the parent-kid situation where the kid has hit kind of the delinquent stage where they're doing things because it pisses off the parent.
Right, just to show that they have agency and that they're their own person and they can.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Because it is a mistake of the parent to assume that you can control your child after a certain point. You can control them, but it will not work eventually.
Won't go well. Yeah.
Not only will it not go well, but there's that illusion that you're under from a certain point where you do actually have the ability to control your child. Well, they're a child. Yukine is not a child. He is a young man in that regard, a shonen, if you will. And he is going to be put into situations where he'll need to be relied upon to do things that no child should ever have to do anyway. So if you're going to work with him in that regard...
You need to acknowledge that.
You need to acknowledge
Have that conversation.
And
he
also
already told you.
Take the high road here, Yato.
Yes. Meanwhile, as if that wasn't, enough conflict, we also have Nora.
Nora and her, I believe, new master at this point.
Right, I think that's what that guy was supposed to be.
I'm guessing so, yeah. Probably another god. That makes sense.
And thankfully, she hasn't been able to sort of, woo over any of our main cast, but she's always lurking, and that's concerning. So
yeah, it is interesting, though, that the angle of her having another master at this point means that she's wanting to switch back, and yet... when the master showed up, she had this forlorn look on her face. Not just because she got rejected, but I wonder if in some ways she's unhappy with her current master in some way.
They're in an open relationship,
I don't know. But we'll see. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Dude.
Okay, that was an intense episode.
I lost it when we saw poor Yukine just soundlessly crying out, and then when we actually started to hear him crying out, that realizing he just needs someone. He just needs someone.
Right.
And the one person that he should be able to rely on here, he doesn't feel like he can connect with because this guy has... all kinds of other issues as well.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah. And then also Hiyori, he doesn't consider her, I guess, someone that he can connect to in that regard.
Right.
Which is quite sad to think about, in that he's so focused on how frustrated he is with Yato that he's missing out on the whole friendship he could have with Hiyori.
Yep. Right.
It's probably because he actually likes her,
Sure. But it's also something where his responses to his circumstances are propagating the problem.
Totally.
And that's something that he's just sort of been doing, and well, now the stakes are high enough that hopefully he'll realize that, and that'll be enough of a shock to get him to reevaluate.
Yeah, but the stakes aren't high for him. There's nothing about this that will damage him.
Right, but that's why I think the stakes actually are high. The fact that
No, I'm not saying that they're not high. I'm just saying that they're not high for him.
for him, that's why I think
okay.
they are high.
Oh, okay.
Because, and that's why I loved that he saw that Hiyori was catching the blight too.
Yes.
Because
Oh,
Yato, he doesn't like Yato. He hates Yato right now, right? All the stuff he does is to spite Yato, right? So, if he sees that it's negatively affecting Yato, then, well, yeah, whatever. Win-win, screw you, right? But Hiyori, that's different. And we'll have to see how it goes into the next episode with everything with Kofuku and Kuro.
Yeah, they just said no.
Yeah, and I think
come
like
to us for help.
I think like that might be, even though this is talking about like stuff that happened at the very end of the episode, but I think that may end up being something that helps communicate to Yukine the gravity of the situation, because the fact that like Hiyori might just be like, no, I don't want you two to be fighting, as opposed to, no, there's a serious thing happening, it needs to stop. And then these two people that are more removed from the situation, it's just, nope, you can't come near us. Like, you guys are now, part of the problem and need to stay very much over there for our own safety.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like, though, Hiyori's going to be more instrumental than you're thinking, though.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of this episode ended up actually working out really well, simply because Hiyori decided to act in this brash enough way to where she's like, I'm going to grab him. I'm going to touch the blight. I'm going to then see not only that it spreads to me when I touch him, but I'm going to continue holding him, picking him up, and taking him to Kofuku and Kuro.
Yep.
Because that's the only thing I know,
right,
like what to do in this case here.
Yukine, you're coming with us. Yeah.
Yeah, you're coming with us. That part where she basically like had a pause of like walking, and she's like, wait, he's not coming. You're coming with us.
Right.
And now I think she understands on some level that like she is kind of the glue keeping them together and stuff like that. But in that respect, this is something that goes beyond a simple, you guys stop fighting. This is Yato will die.
Right.
Even if you don't like him, like this is something where, the kid at the school, remember? His whole thing of, you don't want to lose your humanity.
Yep.
I can see some pretty serious parallels between that and what is happening here. Even if Yukine is not intending to kill Yato.
Right. Yeah.
He maybe wishes he was dead, maybe.
It really makes me think of that that part in early Game of Thrones where Arya and Sansa are fighting, and then Ned has to basically have the talk, right?
Yes.
And be like, hey, it's okay to have fights and stuff, but we're not at home anymore. This is now serious. Fights like this have consequences. Right. Yeah. So you need to stop.
Yeah, you can't afford to hate your sister.
Exactly.
She is family, and thus we need everyone to be on the same side here.
Right. You need to work things out because really
it's necessity.
It's necessity, and they're one of the few people that you have, right?
Right.
And in this case, Yukine saying, "Yeah, I don't have anybody." Well, no, that's the thing. You do have a couple people.
Right.
And because of that, because it's only a couple people, you cannot afford to let this
lose
continue.
Any of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this respect, Yukine is being handled with really graciously by Hiyori because she is dragging him along with them for this whole thing here and being like, no, you need to see this. You need to be here.
Yeah.
We're not just dumping you or anything like that. You're staying with us. And I love that in some respects. I can't blame Yukine for any of this. One of the things that's really, really tough to communicate in this show is within the spiritual aspects of this. Yato took Yukine's memories. He has nothing. And this is something that I feel like the show really drove home here at this moment. Because that's why the scene made me cry so much. Was at that moment where you realize that he is just trying to find a place that he fits in. You realize that his connection to this place, even if it is via some like loose memories, right? Like some muscle memory, like he's able to solve the math problem just instinctively.
Right.
He understands when these words were said, I would stand up, I would sit down, I would bow, all that stuff.
Yep.
When he then comes into the situations where he can see all the people and have them hanging out, playing the video games and stuff, he's like, this is it. this is what I've been wanting.
Uh-huh.
Meaning he didn't even know what it was he was missing. He didn't even know because he has no memory of that.
Uh-huh.
So then as he experiences it, he's like, this is it. I just wanted a friend. I just wanted someone to stand by me in my loneliness here. And there have been two people, one not very fun to be around as much, but a second one who's very much someone that you wish you could spend all the time in the world with. And yet because of this internal battle that he's going through here, what is he supposed to do?
Right.
He has no tools. He has no idea how to handle this.
And I love that it was something that was a raw sort of emotional response to an issue that he didn't understand.
Yeah.
Right? Because the heart is a fickle thing and we don't understand it fully, especially when it's our own. And in this situation, there was something that he knew wasn't right.
Yep.
You know, and there were points when he could kind of, you know, he could kind of put his finger on it, right? But then there were other points where the kid shows up and he's just like, I hate this kid, right? And he doesn't understand why he hates this kid, right? He just knows that he does, right?
Yep.
But it reminds him of him, you know, and Yato kind of points that out. Yeah, you guys are kind of the same, right? And that's like, I love how the two sort of stories that were done here with the kid and with Yukine were done in tandem, right? Because whenever there are stories that do these kinds of like, let's introduce a new character that we can get you to care about them, but it's not nearly in the same way or on the same level as the characters that you've spent all this extra time with.
Sure.
What, you know, one of the best things you can do is you can make it so that their story helps the main character's story, right?
True.
So that as they see this other person struggling, they start to realize what they need to do, right? And I loved that. I love that. Now, in Yukine's case, it's something that's been going on for a lot more time that we've seen, right? Whereas in this kid's case, we got it in this one episode, and it was resolved very quickly and in an extreme way.
Yeah, because we had inferred that there was a lot that had gone on in the past and stuff like that. So this was his last barrier, if you will. This was his final borderline, if you will, where he was like, I'm borderline on losing it. I'm going to hide in the women's bathroom because I can get away here.
And one of the things that as much as what Yato did, it's like, whoa, that might not have been a good idea. One of the things that it sort of forced to happen is for the kid to confront his own inner darkness regarding the issue, and the fact that if he didn't treat this like a serious problem and address it, he could very much get pushed to that point, because he realized that there was a part of him that wanted to take that box cutter to the kid, right? You know, and that he had the ability to resist that dark impulse in the moment, right? But it was not easy, and on another day, he might not, right? And that's why he dropped it. That's why, you know, it was like, okay, I know that that's something I also need to run from, so... all right.
There are also too many stories I've seen in general where the moral is to just suppress or avoid the dark impulses rather than
face them.
Well, not just facing them, but like dredging them up, like letting them be fully out there. I think one of the things that I would say most every kind of like wise person I've ever talked to kind of has this general opinion regarding darker impulses in general. And that is that if you don't fully let them come into the light, basically, if you don't fully look at it for what it is and let it like fully have its way with you in that brief moment there, you kind of downplay it.
And then it grows in the dark.
Right, it grows in the dark. So basically what you end up having here is that whenever something that's got that like that really nasty little inner voice saying like, yeah, do this nasty thing or something like that, if it plays its hand too strong and the thing that the feeling or what have you is so much that you're like, wait a minute, hold on. It basically makes you check yourself and go, whoa, that's way too much.
Yeah, holy shit. Like, where'd that come from?
That makes you in some ways go, oh, okay, this is obviously something that is destructive. But if it's something that's more quiet, more just adding on to the words you're already saying. Like, I loved the way they had him saying cross, and then it would finish the line. cross the line. So it was a thing of where he wasn't even fully addressing it at that point.
Sure.
It was until he basically was like, okay, now I'm going to kill this kid, starts walking up to him. The kid's terrified.
Yeah.
Just like, oh my God. And I love that Yato used something that could be a parallel for regalia in this instance here as like a little bit of a visual metaphor here, in that he basically gave the kid the weapon, the tool, if you will.
Yep.
The thing that our boy Yukine doesn't feel like he has. He feels like he's just the tool.
Right.
Then he says, oh, this is like a little red herring thing to be like, and it's okay if you give the kid one. So that'll make you actually address it.
I love that.
I love that. But that is the thing. That's a trick. It's basically a thing to force it to happen.
Right.
Because if he
it's
just
leading the witness, basically.
Right. What he basically did was if he gives him one, but he doesn't give the other person one, he might look at that and kind of like get scared and then drop it. But if he gives the other person one, then he goes, oh, no, it's actually okay now. It's justified.
Well,
and then that little bit of, but if you don't want to lose your humanity, if you want to lose your humanity, then you can do that.
It both makes it be something where he accepts it in the moment, right?
True.
But then it also reinforces the notion of, well, because it's not that you want to just turn the tables and have him at your mercy, right?
Right.
It's that you want to stand up for yourself and express what you're feeling and resolve the situation and let the other person know that you're not going to take it anymore, right? So it's the fight him on equal footing. But then, of course, he sees, no, this kid is scared shitless, right?
As he would be, yeah.
Right, as of course he would be, right? That's not what this is.
Right.
This isn't some noble standing up to him in a decisive way. No, he might as well not have that knife. Oh, shit. Yeah, no, I shouldn't be doing this. I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah, my humanity rejects this idea.
Right.
And I loved that it was in some ways something that Yato was going to maybe intervene on. But he was going to let it go for quite a while before he would actually intervene. So I really like that Yato was there. It shows that he cares about both kids' lives.
Yep.
Which is just good to reinforce that he does care about human lives.
Right.
But he also really cares, I would say, about solving the problem forever. Because in some ways, he can't actually solve the problem forever, but he can put the kid on the path to solving it forever for himself.
Right.
Where whenever he has those situations where dark impulses start to take over him for a little bit there, he goes, oh, wait a minute. Is this something that will make me lose some part of my humanity? Oh, it will? Okay, then maybe I need to take another look at this one here.
Right.
And that's just really smart on Yato's part. It makes him feel like the immortal god that he is, where he has hundreds of years of experience, because it was something that he just came up with like that, and it was just an amazing solution that I don't think we would have come up with exactly that. We might have come up with something on the same lines, but no, it just makes so much sense that he would come up with this, because also it involves in some aspect letting this kid actually go into those dark areas, because maybe Yato did something similar at some point.
Sure.
Maybe Yato has a little bit more experience with this type of problem. You know.
Right.
And it's like, would you want to lose a little bit of what makes you who you are?
Right. And one of the things that I loved about this is also by dialing it up to such extreme levels, it avoids the issue that sometimes, not often, but sometimes I'll see in stories where when there's the bully type character, it's not actually about resolving things within the person that is bullied. It's about giving the just desserts to the bully themselves, right? So it's the turn the tables somehow so that way I can get them back.
The
right?
unrealistic, cathartic solution.
Exactly. And that
doesn't
right.
talk about what happens the next day or the next 2 days. Yeah.
Exactly. And there can be sort of a cartoony catharsis with that, you know, where it's the you beat the bad guy, you know, right? But
conveniently there are no consequences for it.
Conveniently there are no consequences.
The world is not fair.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm glad Yato brought the whole issue up of, well, he was pissing himself, so hopefully he won't tell anybody. Because
he said he probably won't. In fact, that might have even been Hiyori that said that.
Right, but because, you know, if he did, well, then this other kid's life would be ruined, you know, because he snapped one day, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
And that's... because I feel like this is in this extreme example, it shows how dark and how nasty that kind of thing can get, and those get back at the bully, where that kind of comes from.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's not to such an extreme extent as this.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Yeah. Yato did say that. You were right. The Yukine stuff at the end, though. So it kills me to see these types of stories handled so well. It emotionally, like, actually just it drains me. One of my sensitivities with regards to stories that involve kind of the teenager kind of going through kind of the transition into adulthood and stuff like that, just feeling out like how where they fit in the world, identity stories in general, is that the characters who feel like they're separated from people oftentimes feel like they get put into a position of powerlessness with regards to how they can change that situation. And then the pain that guides their next decision, which is usually something that is out of control or something that is maybe even going into self-harm or something that is just a really, really dark. In this case here, Yukine wants to tear down this thing that reminds him of that time that he can't even remember.
Yeah, this thing that he loves.
Yeah.
But because he can't have it, he wants to destroy it.
Yeah, and he's not even really wanting to destroy it. It's so half-assed. He's basically just going towards the most fragile points, the windows. He's like, this will cause the most noise. This will cause the most immediate, implications and consequences. And yeah, it's going to drown out the sound in my own head and heart.
It's a cry for help.
It's a cry for help. Absolutely. And this is something that I resonate so strongly with, is when you have a character that is emotionally in turmoil and it's an internal battle and they're not really letting other people into their internal battle. Oftentimes what they end up doing is subconsciously crying for help through little actions.
Sure. It's usually not as extreme. Yeah.
Well, that's the point. Everything up to this was a more subtle version of this.
Right. But it wasn't working. And then eventually you get this.
Right. And it wasn't intended to be that way either. Like, he didn't intend it to be a cry for help.
Right.
No, he's too proud to do that.
Well, right, exactly. Because if he had intended it to be a cry for help, then he would have accepted the help that Hiyori was trying to give when she offered it.
Right, but because he wasn't actually looking for that consciously.
Right. And that is why understanding your own heart is important, because then you can understand when you're giving out a cry for help. That way your own pride doesn't get in the way of the very things that you're trying to do, even if you don't realize you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
So
it's actually really clever how they set up so many of these what could be done as just pure melodrama problems so well by how the dynamic of the three characters worked in the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Which means that in a lot of ways, all these issues and stuff make perfect sense. They make perfect sense. And then when they actually are like, we need help, we're in trouble, it's only Hiyori that's actually able to drag them along and make this happen, reminding us, yes, she is kind of the main character in that regard, and she is going to determinator, like, save these people and stuff. Their only allies at that point then sealed them away. Which, this is getting into the heavy stuff, where what happens when no one around you is actually capable of helping you?
Right. It's the consequences angle that they kind of diffused with the whole, he probably won't tell anybody because he pissed himself. But this is the situation where, sorry, Yukine.
No, there are actual consequences.
There are consequences, and even consequences that you not only didn't foresee, but that you, once you see that they're happening, you definitely don't want them to happen, but it's too late. That's consequences for you.
This is another line you can't cross. I really gotta say that the borderline visual is just a genius bit of world building with regards to the themes. It just works really well. And now, what do you do here?
That is a good question.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see Kazuma being there, like, okay, we need your help. And Kazuma's like, crap. Like, he's got to, like find the middle ground.
Okay.
Between, Bishamon being like, I hate Yato.
Hey, wait, Yato's gonna die? Like,
right, exactly. Hey, when Yato bites it, Yukine, we've got a spot for you, a uniform and everything. You'll
Right.
fit in just fine.
There's a button that's been on Bishamon's desk this entire time. She presses it and confetti like shoots out the ceiling. And,
I could totally see that kind of thing, if not for her being so like, I'm
like
so
serious
proper
kind of
and
and
formal. Yes,
right.
indeed.
But what I'm hoping is that now Yukine will start to realize that, hey, other people have been dealing with your shit this entire time because you haven't been dealing with your shit. And now, hopefully, now that he realizes how far it's gone
Right.
and who it's hurting,
Yeah.
and that it's going to permanently,
Right.
take them out,
Yeah.
he'll be like, okay, and then he'll start to talk. Like I want that floodgate to happen with him, where
Yeah.
maybe
It's gonna be with Hiyori first, though.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yep. But
Oh,
good
my
stuff.
God.
This episode was
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, the part with just him by the lockers, the shoe, little storage space and stuff like that. That got
Yep,
me so
yep.
good. But okay. Also, kudo, mad props to you, because I think what you also could be doing is you're also protecting them from Kufoku, because it's not a thing where I think that she couldn't go through. But I think by him doing this, he's basically saying, well, I can control her when you guys are at least, practicing social distancing.
Right,
But if
exactly.
you guys come into this domain and stuff like that, I can't stop whatever she does here, So, yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
As shown by when Bishamon showed up and stuff like that. It wasn't a,
Right.
borderline. It was,
And the whole thing of her threatening Bishamon and then him being like, I'm so proud of you.
I couldn't. You're the best.
Yeah. Right.
And he's like, the Bishamon, you actually
Right.
threatened her.
Yeah.
Storm was used with a capital S twice by two different people this episode.
It was. Now,
So,
what that makes me think is, because I feel like we might have heard that mentioned like way back near the beginning of the show.
I don't think we did. No.
Maybe not. But
Yeah.
what it seems like to me is just an extremer version of a vent.
Right.
Like
right.
a vent that takes on a life of its own, and it's now, it's a full-blown hurricane, not just some air escaping.
Right. Right, exactly. It has, a life of its own. It's its own
And
external
everybody
thing.
better get out of the way.
Right, which means you either need to go into the eye of the storm to stop it, and we'll have
Right.
some cool animation fight scenes there, or on some level, this could be something where they actually need Yato, and this could be where
Sure.
Bishamon or Vina actually is willing to help.
Only you, Yukine, can slice through the heavens and pierce the storm, and yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
That's right. I wrote a sci-fi novel called Battle Lines that also involves emotional teenagers and turbulent times and swords and things like that. If that sounds interesting to you, go check out the link in the description to Amazon where you can get it.
All right, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb,
I'm Jacob.
and we'll see you all next time.